Let's talk about budgeting. For a lot of us, that word just brings up these images of complicated spreadsheets and, honestly, a lot of stress. But what if I told you there was a simple three-part rule that could bring some serious clarity to your finances? Well, today we're going to break down the 50-30-20 rule, a framework that's designed to do just that. So, what's with this number 4.4%? Well, according to the Federal Reserve, this was the average personal savings rate in the US not too long ago. And if that number feels kind of low to you, you're not wrong. It really shows just how tough it can be to put money away. It raises a huge question. With everything we have to pay for, how do we actually save for the future? If you looked at that 4.4% and thought, yeah, that feels about right, and the whole idea of budgeting just seems like another chore you don't have time for, trust me, you are not alone. But what if you could get control of your money with a simple framework instead of some crazy, complicated spreadsheet? That's exactly where we're headed. Okay, so let's introduce the star of the show, the 50-30-20 rule. This is a super straightforward budgeting guideline that was made famous by U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren in her book, All You're Worth. And look, the goal here isn't to restrict you, it's to empower you with a plan that's actually clear and simple. At its heart, this rule is incredibly simple. I mean, this is it. It's just a way of dividing up your after-tax income, your take-home pay, into three buckets. That's it. 50% for your needs, 30% for your wants, and a really crucial 20% for your savings. So just think of it as a template for finding some balance in your financial life. It's designed to help you pay for all the stuff you need today, still enjoy your life, and build a secure financial future, all at the same time. So let's dig in and break down what actually goes into each of these categories. All right, first up is the biggest piece of the pie, your needs. This category gets half, 50% of your take-home pay. And these are your absolute, essential, must-pay expenses. The things you need for survival and just, basic stability. So a good rule of thumb here is if you absolutely have to pay it to live your life and get to work, it's a need. We're talking about stuff like your rent or mortgage, groceries, utilities, and basic transportation. This also includes things like insurance and, this is important, the minimum required payments on any debts you have. Anything extra you pay on that debt, we'll get to that later. Okay, next up is the 30% for your wants. This is the fun category. It's for all the things you spend money on that aren't essential, but let's be real, they make life a lot more enjoyable. You can think of this as your lifestyle spending. Sometimes the line between needs and wants can get a little blurry, so here are some really clear examples. Groceries to cook at home? That's a need. A fancy dinner out at a restaurant? That's a want. Basic transportation to get you from A to B is a need. A luxury car is a want. A great question to ask yourself is just, could I live without this? If the answer is yes, it's probably a want. And finally, we get to the 20% slice. This one is all about paying your future self first. This bucket covers your savings, your investments, and any debt repayment that goes above and beyond those required minimums we talked about. This 20% right here, this is your powerhouse for building real financial security. It's for building up an emergency fund to cover those unexpected costs. It's for contributing to retirement accounts, investing, and getting aggressive with paying down debt. And paying extra on your loans is totally a form of saving because every extra dollar you pay now is less money you're going to pay in interest later. Okay, so we get the theory, right? But how do you actually start using this rule in your own life? Well, it's probably a lot more straightforward than you might think. Let's just walk through a simple 4-step plan to get you started. First things first, you gotta know your numbers. Figure out what your monthly income is after taxes. Second, you need to track your spending for a month or two, just to see where your money is actually going. Third, and this one is a total game changer, automate your savings. Set up an automatic transfer for that 20% the day you get paid. And finally, just try to be consistent, but also be flexible enough to review and adjust things as your life changes. Theory is great, but putting some actual numbers to it makes it real. So let's take a look at a quick example to see exactly how this works for a recent college grad we'll call Bo. So let's say Bo's monthly after-tax income, his take-home pay, is $3,500. This is the number he's going to use to calculate his 50-30-20 budget. So here's how it breaks down for him. 50% for his needs means Bo has $1,750 for his rent, groceries, and those student loan payments. 30% for his wants gives him $1,050 for things like going out with friends or hobbies. And that leaves him with a solid $700 every single month to put directly into his savings and investments. So, what's the real magic behind this rule? Honestly, it's the simplicity. By focusing on just three broad categories, it gives you a clear roadmap to your financial goals without you getting lost in all the tiny little details. It kind of reduces decision fatigue because the big choices are already made for you. I mean, you don't need a finance degree to use it, right? It naturally creates a balance between what you need, what you want, and what your future self needs. And maybe most importantly, it forces you to prioritize saving. That consistent 20% becomes this powerful engine, building long term security and, with it, a lot of peace of mind. And that right there, that really is the core idea. This is not about depriving yourself. It's about creating a sustainable plan that lets you live a full life today while also taking care of the person you're going to be tomorrow. It's all about finding that balance. So, as we wrap this up, the real question isn't whether you can perfectly match these percentages overnight. The question is, what's one small step you can take right now? Maybe it's just calculating your after-tax income, or maybe it's setting up that very first automatic transfer to your savings. What's your first move going to be?